The Oscars. Some people hate them, some people love them. Actually, no one really loves them, but a lot of people watch them, especially if they're into film. And a lot of people like to talk about them. They're a big topic of conversation around this time of year, every single year. And yeah, there are complaints about the Oscars all the time, the things they snub, the things that they have win that nobody likes. But I'm going to play devil's advocate and say the Oscars have a tough job. Every year they have to boil down an entire year of film to just 10 Best Picture nominations, a few acting nominations per category. It's a tough task, especially if that particular year is a very good year for film, which was certainly the case last year in 2024. And before I start to talk about a lot of the 2025 Oscar stuff in the coming months, I wanted to look back on the 2024 Oscars, sort of do a retrospective, see what the Oscars got right, what they got wrong, all of that. So I'm going to be looking at, I believe, 16 different categories and talking about the nominations, what I think should have got nominated, and whether or not the actual winner is what I think should have won. And by the end of this video, I will start to go through the statistics and see exactly how many nominations I agree with, how many wins I agree with, all that stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, but there is a lot to talk about. So let's just get into it. Let me explain how this works first, though, before I get right into it. I'm going to be saying what the Oscars nominated for a given category. Then I'm going to be saying which ones I agree with, which ones I disagree with, and the nomination that I would put as a replacement for that given nomination. And then I'll provide a few honorable mentions. You'll see as we get into it. And let's start with cinematography. The Academy nominated The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Emilia Perez, Maria, and Nosferatu. We're going to be talking about Emilia Perez a lot here, unfortunately. And part of my job here is to make sure that Emilia Perez gets as few nominations as possible because, frankly, it kind of sucks. And it especially doesn't deserve a cinematography nomination. I'm not entirely sure what happened here. Even if you like Emilia Perez, I don't know. Like, it doesn't look good. It's not a gorgeous looking film. It's not even like a cinematography heavy movie. There's not a lot of great shots within it. So definitely going to be taking that one out. We'll also be taking Maria out, although I really do like the way it looks. The wide shots are cool, but the close-ups are kind of bland. And I think it looks aesthetically pleasing, but often doesn't do a lot to get me emotionally connected to that story. I'm going to be keeping The Brutalist and Dune Part 2 pretty easily. Love the way those movies look. And I think I'm going to be taking out Nosferatu, which is tough. There's just a lot of really good cinematography this year. Let me explain the things I'm going to be replacing these three nominations with. So The Brutalist, Dune Part 2, they stay. I would like to nominate Nickel Boys because it's very groundbreaking in the cinematography. Not a lot of people have done this first-person thing, especially in the context that Nickel Boys does it in. And while I do struggle to emotionally connect to that movie, it is undeniably just a great feat of filmmaking, especially in the cinematography. So I'll be adding that. Conclave, I think looks great. This really cool clinical vibe to a lot of the shots, and the close-ups are fantastic, especially of Ralph Fiennes. They do a great job of holding on him and making those shots look interestingly composed. And then I'm going to be adding I Saw the TV Glow. Really great lighting, really great use of like smoke, and just a movie that looks unlike anything that came out this year and anything that's really come out ever. I just love the vibe of that movie. So my nominations are Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Nickel Boys, Conclave, I Saw the TV Glow. A couple honorable mentions, Queer, Nosferatu is definitely an honorable mention. Tough cut. Evil Does Not Exist looks fantastic, and then The Substance. My winner is going to be The Brutalist, though. I think the Academy got it right here. Just unbelievable scale in a lot of these shots. Really captures the architecture well. That long take that goes into the upside down shot of the Statue of Liberty, that alone, like, you know this movie is going to be one of the best shot films of the year, just when you see that opening. And it continues to surprise you and shock you in the ways that it can be visually gorgeous for the entirety of its, 3 hours and 15-minute long runtime. Very impressive. Definitely believe that it deserves that win. Going into Best Production Design now. The Oscars nominated The Brutalist, Wicked, Conclave, Dune Part 2, and Nosferatu. I actually agree with all of these. I don't necessarily love the way that Wicked uses its production design. It's very colorful, but because the cinematography is so weak in Wicked, a lot of the color is just drained out of the production design. But that's not really a factor here because this isn't about the way the production design is shot. It's just the way that it looks, and I think it looks good. The Brutalist, great pick, especially because it's a movie about architecture. The way that the architecture looks is important to that movie. Dune Part 2, definitely going to include, and Nosferatu as well. I'm going to eliminate Conclave just because it's, I don't know, Pope stuff. It's cool, I guess. You know, they recreated the Sistine Chapel or whatever it is, but I don't really think it looks particularly great, and I would like to nominate The Substance in its stead. The Substance looks so cool. The production design is just strange. It's this weird kind of futuristic, kind of LA looking city, but not really. The place that she goes into to like actually get the substance looks fantastic. I just love the vibe of The Substance. It feels simultaneously otherworldly and grounded in reality and also dystopian in a cool way. And the production design is a big part of that. So I would add that instead of Conclave. So my nominations are Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Nosferatu, Wicked, and The Substance. The Academy gave it to Wicked. I would give it to Dune Part 2. And I don't really think I have to elaborate on that. It's just a great looking sci-fi movie, and the production design, big part of that. So in this case, Academy got it wrong. Moving on to Best Score. This is where one of the biggest snubs of the entire year comes up. The real nominations are The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and The Wild Robot. Okay, so Emilia Perez, absolutely out of here. I think that score is downright bad. The choir stuff sounds terrible. The weird auto-tune, I hate it. Brutalist, definitely going to include. Conclave, I think the score is crucial to that movie working, to building up the momentum of a movie that's just a bunch of people talking in rooms. So definitely will include that. Wicked, I am going to keep. And Wild Robot, I'm a little bit on the fence about, but I think I'm going to replace because there's another score that I like a lot. So that gives me 2 slots open. And I am definitely going to be giving one to Challengers, which, spoiler alert, that's my win for best score. Just an unbelievable score. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross killing it. Love the weird club influence on it. It doesn't seem like it should work for a movie about tennis, but it makes the movie. Conclave's staying, Brutalist is staying, and I'm going to be adding Queer, another Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score for Luca Guadagnino movie. Just listen to Pure Love, a track off of that score, and tell me that it doesn't at least deserve a nomination. And then Wicked is going to stay. And like I said, I would give this to Challengers. Pretty tough because The Brutalist has a very, very epic score. But I do think that Challengers is just a little bit better. So yeah, Academy got it wrong here. We're moving on to Best Animated Feature. The Academy nominated Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Flow, Wallace and Gromit, and Wild Robot. Full disclosure, have not seen Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. I've seen these other 4, and they are fantastic, and they will all stay. I'm going to be taking Wallace and Gromit off of the list and replacing it with Look Back, this really gorgeous, only 55-minute anime that is just very emotionally profound, very emotionally affecting. One of my favorite movies of this year. And so my nominations would be Flow, Wild Robot, Look Back, Inside Out 2, and Memoir of a Snail. I remember when this happened and the discourse was whether or not Wild Robot or Flow deserved the win. I sided with Flow the whole year, and I would stick with that. Flow is incredible, and we'll actually be getting right into it in the next category, which is Best International Feature. The nominations for the Oscars were I'm Still Here, Emilia Perez, Seed of the Sacred Fig, Girl with the Needle, and Flow. Flow is absolutely going to be staying. This is probably going to be my most controversial move, but I am going to be taking all of these other nominations off the board. I like Seed of the Sacred Fig, but I also think it is way, way too long. Never seen Girl with a Needle. Emilia Perez, get the hell out of here. I'm Still Here. The Bazillions are probably going to hate me, but it's just very one note. I love the note that it's hitting, and Fernando Torres is spectacular in it, but it's 2 hours and 15 minutes and doesn't really justify the runtime because most of the scenes are just the same. They're very emotionally powerful, but they start to lose their potency whenever they're all just her telling her family it's going to be okay. I just think they could have cut like 15 minutes out of this movie and really nothing would have changed. And I would have liked it a lot more because it would not have outstayed its welcome as much as I believe that it did. But mainly I'm replacing these 4 because there are some really great foreign language films that were looked over by the Academy. So I'm keeping Flow, and then we have Look Back, All We Imagine Is Light, fantastic movie, La Chimera, and Evil Does Not Exist are my 5 nominations here. I'm also going to be giving this one to Flow because I just really like Flow. And we will be moving on promptly. Best Visual Effects nominations for the Academy: Dune 2, Romulus, Better Man, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Wicked, Not gonna lie, have not seen Better Man, have not seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but those monkeys look good. You know, I don't have any problem with them. I saw the trailers for these movies and I thought, that monkey looks good. Better Man, I was kind of confused as to why there was a monkey, but still, I agree with all these nominations, which I believe is the only time that this will happen when I talk about this. And the winner for the Academy was Dune 2. Totally agree with that. The biggest compliment you can make for visual effects is that you don't even feel them as effects, and that's the case with Dune 2. Everything looks so real, and I just have no idea how they pulled off some of these shots. They look remarkable, and the visual effects, again, play a huge role in that. Next up, Best Costume Design. The nominations were Wicked, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Gladiator 2, and Nosferatu. Right off the bat, Gladiator 2, we're gonna be eliminating that. I do not think that should have got nominated. The costume design does not look very good. Same thing with the production design. I don't know what happened. Ridley Scott just not really on his game in this one. A lot of it looks very fake and artificial, and I just don't really vibe with it. Also going to be taking out A Complete Unknown. I don't really get why this is on here. I guess because they look like they're from the 60s or 70s or whatever, but I don't really think it's particularly impressive in its costuming. The other three, though, are going to stay Wicked, Conclave, and Nosferatu. I am going to be adding, instead of Complete Unknown, Dune Part 2. Do not know how this was nominated. The still suits, the thing that Austin Butler wears, all of it looks fantastic. And then also going to be nominating The Brutalist, largely because I really like that trench coat thing that Adrian Brody wears when he walks out on the street. I just think he looks really cool. And Guy Pearce's hat, also pretty cool. So, yeah. My winner is Dune Part 2, though. Like I mentioned, the still suits, huge part of this movie. Maybe the indicator of what makes good costuming is if you look at it and you think, I want to wear that. And I would want to wear a still suit for sure. So I'm going to give that the win. Best Makeup and Hairstyling, we have The Substance, A Different Man, Emilia Perez, Nosferatu, and Wicked. I have no idea why Emilia Perez was nominated here, but it is not going to be nominated in my ideal Oscars. The other four can absolutely stay. And in that fifth slot, I'm going to be slotting in Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, the Chris Hemsworth nose, really just the way that all these people look absolutely insane and crazy. I always love the makeup and hairstyling in any Mad Max movie. And I think this is just as good as Fury Road in that regard, even if it isn't as great in other regards. This is a no-brainer, though. As great as some of the makeup is in these other movies, The Substance was built to win this category. The body horror is grotesque, and the whole, Monstro Eliza Sue thing at the end, just one of the best movie monsters in recent memory, and absolutely deserving of this win, which the Academy also gave it. Moving into some of the bigger categories now, we have Best Adapted Screenplay. The Oscars nominated Conclave, A Complete Unknown, Emilia Perez, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. Okay, as has always been the case in this video, Emilia Perez will not be nominated at my Oscars. Additionally, A Complete Unknown, do not know what is so great about this screenplay, because this movie is 40% people singing. Maybe they're crediting the screenwriters for adding Timothée Chalamet sings Blowing in the Wind now into the script, but I don't really find a lot of the dialogue to be particularly impressive, and generally I'm not a Complete Unknown hater, but I do not find it to be very effective. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot of obvious nominations here, but I really did not think A Complete Unknown or Emilia Perez were worthy of nomination. So I was considering Dune Part 2 for a little bit, but ultimately I decided on the two replacements being Hitman and Queer. Hitman is just a fun time, and Queer, very emotionally powerful in my opinion. The other three nominations stay: Conclave, Nickel Boys, and Sing Sing. The Academy chose Conclave, but I'm going to be going pretty handedly with Sing Sing, if only to give it some sort of win, because, spoiler alert, I think this is the only Oscar that Sing Sing would have won at my version of the Oscars, but I love Sing Sing, one of the best movies of this year. And a lot of that is because of the script. A lot of these small, intimate moments with these people just talking together in jail, talking together in circles, it's what makes Sing Sing so great. And so, yeah, that's going to be my pick. Best Original Screenplay. The actual nominations were Anora, The Brutalist, Real Pain, September 5th, and The Substance. Love all of these nominations except for September 5th, which I have never seen, and so cannot confidently give it a nomination. This was tough. There's only one spot and a lot of original screenplays I love from this year. Honorable mentions I want to briefly talk about: The Beast, Bird, A Different Man, Good One, and His Three Daughters. All great screenplays, but ultimately I had to go with Challengers, just the way that they fully flesh out all three of these characters and their dynamics together. A lot of it has to do with the performances, sure, but also they're right there in the script. They're right there in the dialogue. And so I would give that the 5th spot. So my 5 are Anora, Brutalist, Real Pain, Challengers, and Substance. And I would agree with the Academy here and go with Anora as the winner. Breezing on to Best Film Editing. The Oscars nominated Anora, The Brutalist, Wicked, Conclave, and Emilia Perez. 2 nominations I absolutely disagree with here. One of them is Wicked, which is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and it's only half of a story. I have no idea how they did this. I have no idea how the Academy thought this should have got nominated for editing, because it's way too long. It's super bloated, and I don't think any movie that is 2 hours and 40 minutes long for no good reason should warrant a nomination in this category. Emilia Perez, like I've been saying all video, get it out of here. So we got 2 spots open. Anora, The Brutalist, and Conclave are all staying. I decided to go with The Substance, which I think very efficient in its storytelling, especially its visual storytelling. The way it quickly moves through that first act and sets up the idea of the substance. A lot of that has to do with how great and quick the editing is. And the other one I did was Challengers, because it's kind of switching between a bunch of different times very effortlessly. It's a very ambitiously edited film, the way that it is basically occurring through the course of one round of tennis, but then is flashbacking to other games of tennis and other conversations and back and forth and back and forth. It's very, very well edited, and I think it could have completely fallen apart in the editing room, and yet they find a way to make it work. The other 3 nominations, like I mentioned, stay. The Academy went with Anora here, but I'm going to be going with The Brutalist, which is 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I know what I just said about Wicked and unwieldy runtimes, but I think The Brutalist earned that runtime. It's very epic, very ambitious, doing a lot with its 3 hours and 15 minutes, and is also remarkably edited, specifically in a lot of the montages going on here. The way it cuts to the music is just fantastic, and it's always moving with a purpose, moving with momentum, moving forwards in its plot in a way that I find to be very effective. So yeah, The Brutalist for Best Film Editing. We're now into the big 6 categories. The first one being Best Supporting Actress. The real nominations were Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez, Monica Barbero for A Complete Unknown, Ariana Grande for Wicked, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, and Isabella Rossellini for Conclave. A lot of people were hyping up this Isabella Rossellini performance in Conclave. And then I saw Conclave, and I was like, this lady is in this movie for 5 minutes, and she doesn't really do anything. I like Isabella Rossellini as much as the next guy. She's great. She's just not in this movie that much. And I'm sure people are going to get pissed at me about this, but I'm definitely not going to be giving her a nomination. Felicity Jones is fine in The Brutalist, but she will not be getting a nomination either, because there's a lot of really great supporting actress performances this year. And Zoe Saldana, the winner of this award, not going to be nominating her either. I think she's good in Emilia Perez, but she's good with what she's given, and what she's given is an absolutely terrible script and a pretty flat, nothing character. She elevates that character to being easily the best part of the movie, but I still don't really think it's worthy of a nomination. So Ariana Grande and Monica Barbero are going to be staying. A few ones I wanted to honorably mention: Zendaya in Dune 2, very good, and Joan Chen in DD as the mother. I'm a sucker for parent performances in coming-of-age movies, especially when near the end they're giving a really powerful monologue, and Joan Chen kills this role. But I decided to go with these 3. Margaret Qualley in The Substance, just going crazy and clearly having a lot of fun doing it. Angela Ellis-Taylor from Nickel Boys, easily the character that I was most emotionally affected by. I think in some instances in Nickel Boys, some actors are having issues communicating their emotions to the camera, because it's sort of awkward the way that the camera is the person they're supposed to be talking to. And I think sometimes the acting comes off kind of stiff, but it never does with Ellis-Taylor. She is just such a warm, affecting presence in this film. And then the 5th one, I'm not sure if this is category fraud, and if anyone's seen this movie, tell me if it is, but I put Julianne Nicholson from Janet Planet. She's sort of the lead, but it's a movie that's from the perspective of her daughter, watching her mother as she goes through these different relationships. And so I would say she's supporting. And if that's the case, great stuff, because this movie would not work without this performance. I'm going to go with Ariana Grande. And this is the only win that Wicked is going to be getting in my Oscars. But God, Ariana Grande, just fantastic. Not only obviously with the vocals, but just very charming, very funny, very much matches the whimsy and also kind of like annoying nature of her character in a fantastic way. And so, yeah, I would give her the Oscar. Best Supporting Actor, this was easily the most stacked of the acting categories. The Oscars nominated Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain, Yura Burzov for Anora, Edward Norton, Complete Unknown, Guy Pearce for The Brutalist, and Jeremy Strong for The Apprentice. Off the bat, Culkin, Pearce, Jeremy Strong, absolutely staying. 3 of the best performances of the entire year. Edward Norton, don't really know why he's nominated. I get it. He's Edward Norton, and he's in a musical biopic playing a beloved musician, but he's not particularly good in this movie. I don't really know why they decided to nominate him. And Yura Burzov, I really love in Anora. I love the character of Igor, and I just think he does a really great job kind of being in the background for a lot of the film, and then suddenly becoming one of the most important characters in the third act. But I'm going to be cutting him, and that's mainly due to the fact that there's a lot of really great supporting actor performances in this year. People I'm replacing Burzov and Norton with: Clarence Macklin in Sing Sing, the heart and soul of this movie. Also a really great narrative, as he's essentially playing a fictional version of himself, as he was one of these people that was in this acting troupe, acting crew at Sing Sing. And so he's sort of a non-professional actor who is having to hang with Coleman Domingo at the top of his game and is just as good as Domingo is in this movie. And then my 5th pick would be Josh O'Connor in Challengers. I love what Josh O'Connor is doing in this movie. Very charming, but also just an absolute douche, an absolute sleazeball, and is very, very funny. In my opinion, probably the best performance in the trio of leads in Challengers. So my 5 nominations are Culkin, Macklin, Pearce, O'Connor, Strong. I don't know if this is controversial, because I remember everyone was really pissed at Kieran Culkin because they thought this was category fraud, because he's technically the lead of A Real Pain. And he's kind of co-leads with Eisenberg. I understand that. But at the same time, he is so good that I don't even care if it's category fraud, because he is spectacular in this movie. He is just delivering everything that I love about him as a performer. His critics were claiming that this is just him doing him, or this is just him doing Roman Roy again, but this is such a different character from Roman Roy. It's such a different character from how Culkin actually is in real life, in my opinion, although I don't actually personally know him. But yeah, he's using a lot of his mannerisms. He is talking in the same way that he talks in interviews, but the way that this character converses with the people around him, the way that he internalizes the struggles that he's having, is very, very unique and very, very well performed by Culkin in this movie. So I would say that he should win. I forgot to mention my honorable mentions. The other ones are Bill Skarsgård in Nosferatu, Adam Pearson in A Different Man, Mark Edelston in Anora, and Denzel Washington in Gladiator. But none of those made the cut. Getting into the Best Actor nominations, we have Adrien Brody in The Brutalist, Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown, Coleman Domingo in Sing Sing, Ralph Fiennes in Conclave, and Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. Some really great performances here. Adrien Brody, absolutely going to be staying here. Coleman Domingo, like I previously mentioned, flawless in Sing Sing. And Ralph Fiennes also going to be staying, because that movie hinges a lot on the quality of his performance. A lot of close-ups of him, a lot of him delivering big speeches, a lot of him trying to decide what to do, and a lot of like internal acting that's very impressive from him. And I also just love Ralph Fiennes. The 2 that are on the chopping block, and full disclosure, are going to be eliminated. Timothée Chalamet in A Complete Unknown feels a little bit too much like an impersonation at times. It is a good performance and definitely the best part of that movie, but I'm not the hugest fan of the movie or of the performance, so going to be taking him out. And then Sebastian Stan, but before you get mad, I'm going to be replacing him with Sebastian Stan, but in a different movie. So let me just get into my nominations. Sebastian Stan, but in A Different Man. I think he's a little bit better in this movie, although honestly, he's great in The Apprentice as well. My other 4 are Adrien Brody again, Coleman Domingo, Ralph Fiennes, and then for the 5th slot in place of Chalamet, I will be putting Daniel Craig in Queer. Weird, twitchy performance, doing a lot here, but it's one of my personal favorite Craig performances, and probably one of his most vulnerable and emotional. I'm going to be going with Adrien Brody, just as the Academy did. I know a lot of people don't really like Adrien Brody. His speech was very long. I will say that. But we're not talking about the actor. We're not talking about the dude. We're talking about the performance. And Brody rules in The Brutalist, a movie that he needs to do a lot of capital A acting in, and he more than pulls it off while never feeling like he's overacting at any point. So definitely my pick for Best Actor. Best Actress, the Oscars nominated Mikey Madison in Anora, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked, Carla Sofia Gascon in Emilia Perez, Demi Moore in The Substance, and Fernanda Torres in I'm Still Here. Know that I kind of hated on I'm Still Here a little bit in the international feature category, but I will say Fernanda Torres absolutely deserves a nomination. Are you kidding me? She's fantastic and I'm Still Here. Mikey Madison, also going to move on. Carla Sofia Gascon, we're not even going to talk about it. Just she will not be nominated. And Cynthia Erivo, this is tough because I really like her in Wicked, but I think her character kind of sucks. I don't like the way they write Elphaba. She's just very shallow, and her whole vibe is like, I'm different from people. I don't like people. And I don't know, the whole conceit where it's like, I'm green, so everyone hates me. They're just talking goats. Like, everyone's called munchkins. Why are people so caught up in this idea of this lady being green and that being weird? You live in Oz. Why is this weird? So a lot of the issues of this performance are not issues with this performance. They're issues with the character that she's playing. But because of that, and because it's a pretty competitive category, I'm going to be cutting Cynthia here. Demi Moore and Mikey Madison, of course, they're going to be staying. That leaves us 2 spots for these people. Zendaya is fantastic in Challengers. Florence Pugh in We Live in Time, very underrated performance. Lily Collins in Good One. Lily Rose Depp in Nosferatu. And Lea Seydoux in The Beast. Going to go with Lea Seydoux in The Beast for the 4th spot. I really dig when people are acting in surreal movies and yet they feel like they know what's going on the entire time. And that's what Lea is doing in this movie. When she's screaming at the end, you don't really know what she's screaming about, but she seems as though she knows what she's screaming about. And that is sort of an abstract way to say that she is very good in this movie. And the 5th spot's going to be Lily Rose Depp. What a crazy performance. I cannot believe that Lily Rose Depp did some of the things she did in this movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Just the physicality of this performance is staggering. I don't know anyone who would even try to attempt some of the things she attempts in this movie. So shout out to her. Great stuff. So my 5 noms are Mikey, Demi, Fernanda, Lea, and Lily. Going to be keeping the win here for Mikey Madison. Just love her in this movie. Very emotionally vulnerable, also very funny, especially in the break-in scene when she's just screaming her head off and doing a lot with a character that I find to be a little bit underwritten, but also that's sort of the point. And Madison does a great job of kind of making this character feel nuanced and a little mysterious, and you never really know exactly what she wants out of the situation, but she's always very entertaining and fun to watch. So definitely going to be keeping that win. Heading into the final 2 categories, Best Director. The nominations were Sean Baker for Anora, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, Coralie Fargo for The Substance, and Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. Okay, so Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez, no. Same thing with James Mangold for Complete Unknown. Not a very well-directed movie, in my opinion. Even the stuff that's good in it, I don't really attribute to him. I attribute to the fact that, Bob Dylan's written some great songs, and Timothée Chalamet knows how to perform them well. And Monica Barbero also knows how to perform them well, but none of that really boils down to James Mangold as a filmmaker who, I like some James Mangold movies. Ford versus Ferrari, great stuff, but just don't really dig this one. So that leaves us 2 spots to replace. Sean Baker, Brady Corbet, and Coralie Fargo are staying. In the place of Audiard and Mangold, I'm going to be putting Denis Villeneuve and Ramel Ross. I mentioned before I don't particularly emotionally connect to Nickel Boys, which is the film that Ramel Ross directed, by the way, in case you didn't know. But I do think it is a remarkable feat of direction, and the way that he's almost rewriting cinematic language in real time is staggering. Very, very impressive stuff. And Denis Villeneuve, have no idea why he wasn't nominated in the first place. Dune Part 2, a remarkably directed movie. Just every single thing is top-notch in that film. And yet, not a nomination for Denis. I don't know. Along with the Challenger score, the biggest snub of the year. and I'm going to be actually giving him the win. Sean Baker and Betty Corbet in contention, but there's a couple choices made in the Brutalist that I'm not a huge fan of, and I kind of like what Sean Baker is doing as the screenwriter and as the editor in Anora a little bit more than what he's doing as the director. And I mean, come on, just watch Dune Part 2. Just watch the sandworm writing scene and tell me that Denis was just not at the absolute top of his game while he was directing Dune Part 2. Just fantastic. Would give him the win, absolutely. That brings us to Best Picture, which has 10 nominations, and I'm just going to be saying, yes, I'll keep them. No, they're out. As I list them all: Anora, staying. Brutalist, staying. Complete Unknown, get that out of here. Conclave, staying. Dune Part 2, staying. Emilia Perez, no, I'm still here. I like it, but there's a couple movies I like more from this year, so I'm going to be taking it out. Nickel Boys, staying. Wicked, no. And The Substance is staying. So that leaves us with 6 that are staying and 4 that I cut. So I'm just going to be listing my nominations: Anora, Challengers, Brutalist, Dune Part 2, Sing Sing, The Substance, Nosferatu, A Real Pain, Conclave, and The Nickel Boys would be my 10 nominations from last year. And I think they got it right. Anora is a great Sean Baker film, a fantastic central performance. And while I do personally like Dune Part 2 a little bit more, I do think that Anora is, I guess, objectively the better movie. I hate using that word, but it is just doing a lot of things very, very well. A remarkable ending, the best ending of the entire year, in my opinion. It's a lot of fun. It's very emotionally affecting. Every single performance is fantastic. And yeah, I just really dig Anora. Think that it should have won, and glad that it did. And that's the thing about the Oscars. They get it wrong a lot. But when they get it right, it's a great feeling. It's great to see the best picture of a given year actually win Best Picture at the Oscars. And that was the case here. Before I finish, because I've been talking for a very long time, I'm going to be going through a couple of stats here. Of the 15 categories I discussed, I disagreed with the Oscars 6 times. So 9 times they got it right. 6 times they got it wrong. 9 out of 15 is like a little bit under 67%. So not bad, but still technically a failing grade. And in my hypothetical Oscars, this is the amount of awards that each movie would have won. Dune Part 2 would have won 4, director, production, costume, and visual effects. Anora would have won 3, Best Picture, Best Actress, and Best Original Screenplay. Flow would have won 2, Best Animated and Best International. Brutalist would have won 3, Best Actor, Editing, and Cinematography. Substance would have won 1, Makeup and Hairstyling. Real Pain would have won Supporting Actor. Wicked would have won Supporting Actress. Sing Sing would have won Best Adapted Screenplay. And Challengers would have won Best Score. And that's how it shakes out. Obviously a lot going on in this video, but let me know how you felt about the 2024 Oscars. Let me know what you disagreed with the most from the Academy. Let me know what you agreed with most from the Academy. If they got it mostly right, mostly wrong. If I got it right or wrong. Whatever you want to talk about in the comments, talk about it. Like and subscribe. Do movie news, director rankings, film reviews, stuff like this every week. And next week, I am going to be talking about all 3 of the Knives Out movies and ranking them. So that's going to be fun. Tune in for that. And that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.